Hang on.
Okay.
We are recording. Okay.
All right. We'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force Complaint Committee to order at 5:37 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you please read meeting decorum and access information for us?
We need to do roll call, I think, first.
Oh, Madam
Roll
Clerk,
call.
would you call the roll?
Yes. Member Schmidt?
Present.
Member Schmidt present. Member Yankee?
Present.
Member Yankee present. Chair Hinsey?
Present.
Chair Hinsey present. We have a quorum.
All right.
I will now read the remote access information. In accordance with Governor Newsom's Executive Order number N3320, declaring a state of emergency regarding the COVID-19 outbreak, and Mayor London and Breed's proclamation declaring a local emergency issued on February 25th, 2020, including the guidance for gatherings issued by the San Francisco Department of Public Health officer, aggressive directives were issued to reduce the spread of COVID-19. On March 17, 2020, the Board of Supervisors authorized their board and committee meetings to convene remotely via Microsoft Teams and will allow remote public comment via teleconference. Members of the public may participate by phone or may submit their comments by email to cheryl.leger@sfgov.org. All comments received will be made a part of the official record. The Sunshine Ordinance Task Force agendas and their associated documents are available at sfbos.org/sunshine. There is a public comment call-in number, 415-906-4659. A meeting ID is 628-896-562. As the COVID-19 disease progresses, please visit the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force website regularly to be updated on the current situation as it affects the legislative process.
All right.
Madam Chair, do you want to read meeting decorum?
Would you go ahead and do that for me, please?
Sure. Meeting decorum. Any member of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force may call for decorum due to disorderly conduct of meeting participants. Persons who engage in threatening and/or menacing behavior may be asked to leave.
All right. Would you please call the next item?
Call to order and agenda changes. Are there any agenda changes that anybody can see in the packet that we have here?
I will take silence as a no.
Well, the only agenda change I want to say is what you and I discussed a little bit a while ago about the administrator's report from the last task force meeting that included the form that
Right.
Chair Wolf asked the complaint committee to review and give comment on. So when would you like to do that? Before public comment? At the end of the meeting? What would you like to do?
Want it added to this meeting?
Yes, I just didn't know where specifically.
Actually, as it is not on our agenda, we cannot discuss it.
We
can
can't.
schedule it for a future meeting, but we cannot take action on it or discuss it as we have not agendized it.
Okay.
Right.
This
So
is something
that-
I'm just saying this because Chair Wolf asked me to bring this up to the complaint committee and ask them to discuss this. But you're right about protocol.
But he also knows we can't do it in a formal way. So I'll talk to him about that.
Okay.
Any other agenda changes? Hearing none. Public comment on agenda changes. Even though we can make any, I'll take public comment anyway. Hearing none. Cheryl, before we move to the next item, would you like to give instructions on how to give public comment for folks that have called in?
I believe for people who have called in and used the meeting ID, you are allowed to make public comment when that is called during the committee. And I think to allow access for you to make public comment, you hit *6.
Yes, thank you. Would you call the next item?
Item number 2, approval of the September 15, 2020 complaint committee meeting minutes. Anybody got any changes or
I do.
something that makes sense? Okay, where?
Okay, at the top, it says the meeting starts at 4:30, but it should be 5:30. Right at the
You're
top.
right. Yep.
And then for item number, hang on here, 7.
Get there. Okay, one, Chris Kors, yes.
Yeah, it looks like there's some inconsistencies with how you spelled Mr. Kor's last name. I don't know if it's K-O-H or K-H-O, but it kind of goes back and forth. So
It's K-H-O-R-S. I will review this. I'm looking at the first paragraph, and it looks like. Oh, in the complaint description. Yes, I see where the question is.
yeah. So
Yeah, it's K-H-O-R-S. It is.
Okay,
I will correct that.
that's all I had.
All
Okay.
right.
Okay, so it made sense?
Yep.
All right, good. That's something out of the way. All
So-
right.
Well, thank you as always, Member Yankee, for your eagle eyes. Any motions on the floor?
Sure, I will move to approve them with those changes.
I'll second.
All right. Any public comment on the minutes?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Hang on.
Cheryl, just let us know when you're ready. Take your time.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, he gets 3 minutes.
Yes.
Anonymous?
Yes, may I begin?
Yes, you may.
All right. The comment is regarding page 4 of the minutes PDF, which is page 3 of the minutes themselves. On the second paragraph under item 5, it says anonymous, that's me, pointed out that of the 2,000 records received, 1,000 of those pages were redacted. I'm pretty sure I didn't say that. And I would ask that you look back at the hearing minutes. It's that I believe that 1,000 of the pages were just copies of random agendas and stuff and had no effort to need redaction. There were hundreds of pages redacted, but I don't believe there was 1,000 pages redacted. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, so how many? Just give me an estimate, and I will write it in and make the change. What
I'll
do you
just say many, but there's no need. I'll just say many of the pages. But I don't think I said 1,000. That's all I'm saying. So.
All right. All right, that's a good comment.
Any other public comment on our minutes? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please go ahead and call the roll?
Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Member Schmidt?
Aye.
Member Schmidt, aye. Chair Hinsey?
Aye.
Chair Hinsey, the motion to pass the minute passes.
Thank you very
Didn't say
much.
that very well, did I?
Next item, please. Cheryl.
Hang on, I hear you.
Okay.
Item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda.
All right. General public comment. Members of the public may unmute themselves and ask to make public comment at this time.
May I make a comment?
Of course.
Please let me
Okay,
know
go
when
ahead.
I may begin.
Go
All
ahead.
right. So 2 things. One, someone may want to check on the pipeline for posting audio for these meetings. I don't know if it's automatic or a person does it, but your archive to check what was actually said and compared to the minutes might be broken, as the last few meetings haven't been posted. And the second comment is that if the the form that the chair of the full task force is asking you to consider informally, I guess since it's not on the agenda, I would ask that you at some point do consider it formally because I believe it's the form I've suggested the task force use. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any?
Just to let you know, when it comes to recordings with the task force, for some reason, the mechanics of this, like the last meeting we had that was 7.5 hours, it was split up into 3 parts, 2 3-hour parts, and then 1 1.5 hour part. So I don't know why it's doing that, but it has caused some challenges for our IT department to combine the recordings and make it a cohesive one recording so that they can post it. That's what's going on.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. Any additional general public comments? All right, hearing none. I was just giving folks a couple minutes to get off mute, but hearing none, we will move to the next item.
Real quickly, if I may, I was just going to say, Cheryl, I'm looking just into the comment that was made. And for example, I'm not sure I see compliance and amendments from September posted the audio either. So you might want to double check the committee audio as well.
Yeah, that is weird.
So I'm just seeing August.
What I'm doing is I'm getting the recording, and then I have to give permission for some people who will obviously have an interest in the recording, like Victor, my boss, Alyssa Samara, Angela Cavijo, John C., who's our IT person.
We will look into it.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, so just double check the committee ones too. Thanks.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that comment.
All right. Madam Clerk, would you please call the next item?
Item number 4, file number 19097, complaint filed by Anonymous against Public Works for allegedly violating Administrative Code sections 6721, 26, and 27 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner. This particular matter does have a DCA memo.
All right. Do we have Anonymous with us?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do we have a representative from Public Works?
Yes.
All right.
David? Yep. Okay, so he gets 5 minutes?
Let's have the, I believe the petitioner starts.
Yeah, he will. I'll give him 5 minutes. I'm just going to set my clock. I'm just going to set my clock.
Can you just let me know when I have 30 seconds, please?
I'll do the best I can. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Task Force. This is case 19097, Anonymous versus the Department of Public Works, Mohammed Nuru and Jeremy Spitz. The caption does need to be corrected. I did name 2 individual respondents in this case as well. If you would, I'd like to begin on page 13 of the PDF for item 4. You have the timeline here in August 23rd of 2019. This is quite some time ago. I sent an IDR for government and personal account searches for 10 sent and 10 received emails of each of various DPW senior management with the email metadata issue that some of you are familiar with. The timeline of response is seen there. There were 11 types of issues that I filed a complaint for, along with 6721, 26, and 27 violations. After the complaint was filed, San Jose records were City of San Jose, meaning personal searches, searches of personal property were done for 1 custodian and produced. As always, the allegations are as of the time of filing the complaint, and based on the respondent's response, I am withdrawing 1 out of the 11 allegations made regarding City of San Jose. Everything else remains. You will see at the bottom of this page excerpts of the request. As always, I request the specific electronic format with email headers and metadata, and specifically instruct them not to exclude BCC addresses. Next page, please. You have ruled multiple times that email header metadata is disclosable. See prior rulings in SOTF 19044, Anonymous versus the Carrera, 19098, Anonymous versus SFPD, and the unanimous recommendation of your IT committee in 19105 that electronic metadata is like any other public record, must be redacted minimally, and you must cite all justifications for each redaction. DPW is a special case. They used to produce email metadata until I came on the scene. And then they filed a response to you saying on the, quote, mayor's office's advice that they stopped doing this. The mayor's office is not an IT expert. They are not qualified to determine what portions of email header metadata are or are not disclosable. This is just a part of an ongoing fight between me and the city. And they don't wish to comply with your order against them, and they have not done so. The mayor's office and the city attorney's office brought the city chief information security officer, Michael Maxman, to testify as their witness before you. He testified that not all email metadata is a security risk. And under that theory, we have now, in fact, received the CSO's own email header metadata through our ongoing negotiations with the Department of Technology. They're close to lawfully compliant. There's a few disputes that remain. And at this point, the city attorney, the mayor's office, the police commission, and the Department of Technology have all produced email header metadata to some degree, but not yet fully compliant. Moreover, as of July of this year, far long after this complaint was filed and they would not produce email metadata to me, David Steinberg, who is, I believe, has the title custodian of public records at the Department of Public Works, produced at least 3 native emails to another requester with all email header and metadata, and I will show you samples of it later on. This proves that whatever risk, even if there was some risk to this, they're waiving that risk. They release this information to others all the time. They just won't release to me because I've brought these complaints and I've won these complaints. Next page, please. There's a variety of things unrelated to email metadata that they need to produce in their emails. They use a method of production where when you redact even one part, it will remove all the hyperlinks in the PDF. You can't do that. The images get replaced with question marks, so they don't produce the images in emails. DPW has claimed in the response, I am required to request these separately. That is wrong. They are part of the record I requested. They need to provide government email addresses. Those are not private under the privacy exemption. They need to produce the dates that the emails were sent. For some unknown reason, some emails have those timestamps and some emails don't. And BCCs must be produced if there are any. No written justification was provided for withholding any of this information in violation of 67.27, all of which constitute non-minimal withholding as you have held in other cases, which is also a violation of 67.26. Only after we file a complaint did DPW give any justification. Now, at the full task force, I will ask you to find a number of violations.
You're at 18 seconds.
At the full task force, I will ask you to find a number of violations. At this time, I merely ask that you find that these are public records and request, as opposed to order, that DPW produce all non-produced information. On the next page, you'll actually see an example of the email header metadata. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Anonymous. Mr. Steinberg.
Hang on a second.
Hi.
All right. And let's just give our clerk a second to reset her timer.
Okay.
And she will let you know
Go
when
ahead, David. Go ahead, David.
Thank you. Hi, thank you, members of the committee. A couple things I wanted to clear up. One is that, which Anonymous pointed out, that in July, I did release a number of emails in their native format. That was done by accident. We haven't released any, sort of my knowledge, emails in native format since I was alerted by City Attorney's Office and the Mayor's Office and others who have been involved with this issue that metadata was a problem. What I do with Next Request, which is the system we use now, is I keep every email that is related to a request as part of our internal procedure. And when I close out the request, I upload all of those to an internal or a folder that's only available to staff. And for some reason, that folder was the privacy setting was changed to public. So because Anonymous notified me of that, I changed it back. So those were done in error. They weren't released to the requester. They were inadvertently released. My biggest problem with this, and I've said this before, is I don't know how to edit metadata. My IT team says they don't know how to edit metadata. We even Anonymous says, yes, there are some issues that are potential security risks, but in another case that he submitted, he was asking for calendar entries, and I was trying to work with him, and he was telling me, well, if you convert it into this and you remove that, and that didn't work. So I'm not a computer expert. I have to rely on my IT team. If the city Department of Technology comes up with a way of doing it, I'd be more than happy to follow those guidelines. But at this point, I have no way of editing metadata. I don't know how to do it, and my professional computer IT people have told me that they don't know how to do it. Of course, as you probably know now, we do use Next Request, and that has changed the way that some of the files are done. Previously, we had our IT team convert them from PST files into PDFs, and I think that caused some of the problems that Anonymous was mentioning, where when you redact one thing, it wipes out the other links. That's what happens if you use Adobe PDF, the program we used to use. But now with Next Request, we actually dump the MSG files into the system. They extract everything out, so you end up with one email. You might end up with the email itself in a TXT file, and you may have 5 attachments, 3 of which may just be the Public Works logo. And one might be an attachment, which is, a doc file or an Excel file or something like that. So that's actually changed a little bit, which is good. As I said, the other thing that he also said that we didn't include withholding justifications. So this is a request that I was actually out of the country when this came in, and Jeremy in my office worked on it, and the redactions, which he gives as an example on that last page, it blanks it out and it doesn't have the footnote there, but in his response when he closed the request, he did notify Anonymous that we redacted personal information. He cited it also, information security records have been redacted pursuant to Government Code Section 6254.19, as well as personnel records 6254C. So they weren't on the same page, but he was notified that information was redacted for those reasons. Unfortunately, it didn't show up on the file. I guess that's about it. I guess the only other thing I would say is
30 seconds.
No, actually, I'll leave it there. Yeah, no, I'll leave it at that. That's good. As I said, we've tried to work with him before. He's acknowledged that we generally do a pretty good job of getting to his stuff and in a timely manner and a complete manner. So my biggest issue, as I said, is I have no ability to edit a metadata file, and it certainly isn't easily generated or easy to do. It would, I'm waiting for instructions if someone can give them to me. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Okay.
Thank you. And just to sort of outline what we're doing here for our new member Schmidt, we're not hearing the merits of the case. This is the time for you to ask any outstanding questions that you have, whether you feel anything is missing. For example, before we move this case to the task force, sometimes we continue cases asking parties to do certain things or produce certain things we need before we feel that we can move things forward to the task force. So with that, the matter is now with the members for any questions.
Sure. This is Member Yankee. I have a quick question here regarding the reasons for redaction. I don't know what page that particular email that listed the reasons for the redactions that was sent, but it sounds like there was more than one reason. Were those reasons matched up with the specific redactions? For example, the first redaction was because of reason 1, the second redaction was because of reason 2, or is it just a general list of a variety of reasons, which I think we kind of have to have them matched up? Is my
Yeah,
point.
no, I understand. I believe I'm looking at them here. No, there were two batches. As I said, Jeremy did all of the initial ones, and that was because again, as I said, I was out of country, and then the other ones, which were my my personal emails that I had stuff to myself, and I did those ones when I came back. And I don't believe, I'm just looking, I'm literally just looking here for through the file. Generally what happens is they're on the files themselves. That's the way Next Request works, thankfully. But I don't see, I'm looking at the request on Next Request, and it says, come on, hold on, sorry. It does not, which is unfortunate. I don't know why it doesn't do that. It does now. Yeah, no, it doesn't look like they were keyed to the specific justifications.
Okay, so that's probably something.
I mean, we listed them, but we didn't. It doesn't look like it's like on page one, because what happens now with Next Request when we do these is it comes through with a notation for each one, and then there's a final page that lists on page one, citation 2, 3, and 4 are for X. It looks like Jeremy did these outside of Next Request. Looks like he did them in Adobe, which doesn't have that function, which is why we put it in the closing message.
Okay, so it looks like that's probably something you want to address going forward. And then I had an additional question. I think Anonymous talked about BCC addresses, email addresses being stripped out. Can you maybe speak to that? Were there government email addresses that were redacted? That seems kind of odd. That would be
again. I think what happened is, because these were converted, it shows up as. So I'm looking at one right now. So it'll say from Caltrain to John Thomas (DPW) and it's hyperlinked in the originals. And so it doesn't list the address. It's generally if someone has that person in their email contact list, it lists the name and not the email address.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah. In fact, that's actually a setting in Outlook where you can have it display or not display, and I think that actually gets to the point of why Anonymous is looking for the metadata, because what you see on the screen, for example, might not show that actual email address if you have your Outlook preferences set not to show it. And so I think that's kind of why we've had these metadata discussions, and I'm sure when it goes to full task force, we'll dive into that a little bit more. But I think that kind of gets the complaint here.
Yeah, no, I understand. Like I said, the issue is like I don't know how to do the metadata. Although I'm looking at them, and most of them, because for most of these things, there tend to be a lot of email strings. So even if the top one, like I'm looking at one here, it says from Suzanne Suskin, DPW, to John Thomas, DPW, CC, Michelle Wu. Under that, it says, would you please touch base with her on that? And underneath it, it says from Michelle Wu and it lists her email address, and to Suzanne Suskin and lists her email address. It's only the top one that doesn't do it, which I understand if it's not providing the information you want, but I want to say that the vast majority of these, they're usually, because they're responses, you actually do get the full email address in them. But I know that's not what's being requested. But
right.
In many cases, it actually is there.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Maybe even Anonymous could offer some guidance. He probably is a little better with computers than me. But if I recall from our discussions in the IT committee, I think we had some city IT folks show up, and they talked about saving the email, and I think you could open it up. Correct me if I'm wrong, someone, but in something like Word or Notepad to actually see it, and then from there, redactions and such can be made. So I know there's a way to do it. We did have that discussion, and so it might just be a need for you to touch base with the IT folks to figure that out.
Right.
Would you like me to respond to that or no?
Sure. If you want to briefly talk to that, Anonymous, maybe you could offer a little guidance.
Okay. So what I can say is I've entered this into the record. I don't know if it's in this, but in the case where the DT is the respondent, DT has now done this in 99% correct way. They've done exactly what you said. They've come up with recommendations for the metadata and the policies. We've discussed now, I think it came up in multiple meetings before. So it does exist. There is a way to do it. And they can follow the law if they want to. It just takes work, and work doesn't exempt something here. So it is possible. And if you need some, I can point you to specific resources. I can follow up with the respondent offline if they would like me to. But there are ways to do this correctly.
Respondent, with that, Mr. Steinberg, would that maybe help in preparation for our full task force meeting if you and Anonymous maybe had a discussion about this? He could point you to some of those resources that are being used by other departments that he's requested information from.
I mean, yeah, in fact, I know that the mayor's office and DT have gone through some of these. We don't, I hate to put it this way, we don't work with DT. We have our own IT team, and my IT team has not been able to tell me how to do it. So if DT has figured out a way of doing it, that would be great. Because my understanding is even if you can open it up and paste it into a Word file, it's not a simple figuring out what's what. Each of the different tags have different components and being able to search for them. If there's a way of doing that, it doesn't have to be even automatic, but easily generated, then that would be great. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Any other questions, members?
That's all I've got.
Members?
Yeah, Member Schmidt here. For Mr. Steinberg, could you tell me a little bit about your discussions with your technology department? Have they given you anything in writing describing how difficult this would be for them to somehow be able to produce metadata?
I don't know if they've given me anything in writing. I mean, I've asked them any number of times, any number of ways. I also asked next request because, as I said, we use that system now, and I specifically asked them when they came up with this way of extracting message files. I specifically raised the issue of the fact that we've gotten requests for metadata, and they basically said our programs don't do that, and we're not really sure how that would work. So
when you say our programs, is that the next request that's not allowing them to do that? Is that what you're referring to?
Their platform. We use their portal to answer requests and use their tools to redact and answer and take all of it. They said they don't do it, and they're not sure how to make it. I guess we were the first people to ever ask them about that.
And that's within DPW, correct?
No, Next Request it's an outside company, but the city has a contract with them, and there are 15 or 18 city departments that use them as an online platform to release records and for people to make requests.
I guess the question, what I meant was, that's the tech people within DPW as opposed to the City Department of Technology. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the people that I work with.
Is there any reason which would have stopped you from contacting the city's Department of Technology about this metadata question?
Generally, we're told to go through our own IT department when we put in service requests. There have been other things that we've had to that ultimately have to be through DT, and we do it through our IT. We ask our IT, and they put in a request to DT on our behalf. That's just the way we've been told to do it. And I can go back to our IT folks and say, look, if there's a way of doing it, and DT apparently knows how, then someone needs to let us give us the formula so that we can actually do it.
Okay, so they have a line of communication apparently that is what you would rely on if you want even more help than what your department can do, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we've had issues with that with, for example, like with Teams and other things. Our department doesn't own those, can't change the settings, and so I've had to go through our IT folks to go through DT so that they could tell them how to pull the files and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, I think I've asked what I need for now. Thank you.
All right, members. All right, so how do we want to proceed with this? Do we feel, I know we have a couple of action steps where we want some coding and some sort of clerical work to match up before we make it before we come to the full task force. And we want Anonymous and the respondent to have a conversation about how to make the email addresses visible. Other than that, do we feel that this is ready to go to the full task force?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay, maybe we're thinking December. Would that give them enough time to talk together and then maybe schedule this for December? Because I've already set the November schedule and I've sent it to Bruce.
I think so. Member Smith, are you feeling confident?
Yes.
All right. Let's move to rebuttal. Anonymous.
I don't
No.
think
And Mr. Steinberg, any last words?
I'm sorry, was I asked to speak? You guys spoke over each other. I didn't understand what I was asked to do.
You'll be asked if you want to speak in just a second. Mr. Steinberg, any last words?
No, I think I'm good for now. Thank you.
All right, Anonymous, do you have any closing thoughts on this case?
Sure. One thought. As you discussed at the IT committee, there are two requirements of the Sunshine Ordinance. One is whether the format can be generated. That only has to be easy, and I think your members of the task force actually did it in front of the city. I believe you said in 2 seconds. There's a separate requirement to minimally redact. There is no legal requirement that redactions be easy. In fact, they must redact only what is exempt, no matter how difficult. And you've held that in non-metadata cases about videos and audio and all sorts of other things. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Sure. Looks like we've already determined jurisdiction on this, so I'll move that the requested records are public and to refer to the full task force for a hearing.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have public comment on that motion. Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Member Schmidt?
Aye.
Member Schmidt, aye. Chair Hinsey?
Aye.
Chair Hinsey, aye. The motion you sent to the task force passes.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please call the next item?
Item number 5, file 128, complaint filed by Anonymous against Chief William Scott, Sergeant Brian Rodriguez, Michael Andriachek, and the Police Department for allegedly violating Administrative Code Sections 6721, 25, 26, 27, and 29-7A by failing to respond to an immediate disclosure request in a timely and complete manner. There is no DCA memo for this particular matter.
All right, and are we determining jurisdiction also?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, hang on a second. No, we are not. In this matter, jurisdiction was decided by the Compliance and Amendments Committee on January 28th.
All right. All right, do we have a member with us?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do we have someone from the police department?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
And who is this?
Great.
Who?
Sergeant Andrzejczyk here.
Oh, sorry. I didn't hear that. Sorry.
Just making sure you guys can hear me okay.
Yes,
Yeah, we can.
Excellent. Going back on mute.
Anonymous will go first. And Cheryl from Anonymous, whenever you're ready, you may.
Anonymous, you may begin.
Thank you very much. Good evening again. This is case 19128 versus Sergeant Brian Rodriguez, Chief William Scott, Sergeant Andrachek, and the Police Department. And we will begin on page 6 of item 5 PDF. This case is quite different than the usual cases I bring here. In this case, the Police Department denies that what I have requested are in fact public records subject to the CPRA and Sunshine Ordinance. What is this about? So, as you might remember, there was a raid on journalist Brian Carmody that the Police Department and the FBI participated in. I made a records request for all sorts of records about those in a prior records request. In that request, in the response to that request, I found an email sent by Sergeant Brian Rodriguez, an employee of the SFPD, to other police department employees asking about a certain forensic analysis to be performed on Brian Carmody's computer. That email was sent by Brian Rodriguez using a different domain than sfgov.org. And then I asked Sergeant Brian Rodriguez on his SFPD official email address to provide all copies of the email he sent, all replies he received, and all forwards, essentially the entire email thread. For both his SFPD email address and also the other email address he used to send that. In this specific case, I would really ask you to read my detailed legal briefs because there's a complex legal argument based on City of San Jose why these are public records. They rejected it. They said they would not provide the records on his other email accounts. Next page, please. This is a copy of the other record I received that proves that the records in this case exist. In this case, there is a Lieutenant Torres sending to a Chief Moser a response about an email sent by Sergeant Brian Rodriguez on an rcfl.gov email address to various persons, both city employees, FBI agents, and some unknown person. If you look at the page after that, you will notice he signed this email Sergeant Brian Rodriguez, number 4075, San Francisco Police Department. And I'll explain what the Silicon Valley Regional Computer Forensics Laboratory is in a later part of this presentation. Next page, please. Now, Rodriguez's emails on his rcfl.gov account are public records under the CPRA and Sunshine. To meet the definition of a public record, they must be writings and related to the conduct of public business. Those are not disputed. The question is, were they prepared, owned, used, or retained by a local agency or a state agency? In this case, it's SFPD. And the answer is yes, according to the Supreme Court's decision in City of San Jose versus Superior Court Real Party and Interest Smith in 2017. The Supreme Court held that the preparation, own, use, or retention by an employee of a local agency imputes to that local agency. Rodriguez was undeniably an employee of the city and SFPD. He signed the email as a sergeant of the SFPD. And I have not asked for random other accounts of RCFL or FBI, but just the one Sergeant Rodriguez possesses on rcfl.gov. You can see on the next slide here quotations from the Supreme Court's decision in their logic in City of San Jose versus Superior Court. They concluded that if it's in the possession of the agency includes individual officers and employees of that agency. And they denied the argument of the City of San Jose that only writings accessible to the agency as a whole are public records. This is accessible to Sergeant Brian Rodriguez and must be produced. Next page. In fact, I have received the contract that defines what the, quote, Silicon Valley Regional Computer Forensics Laboratory, which is rcfl.gov, is. The MOU between the FBI and the SFPD defines the RCFL to not exist as a separate legal entity and to not have any employees. Sergeant Brian Rodriguez was acting as an employee of the city and the city alone, and therefore he prepared or used the email sent or received. He must produce them and so should SFPD. You might wonder, what if the physical computer servers of rcfl.gov are owned by the federal government? I don't know if they are, but the physical location of a record has no bearing on its status as a public record. The Supreme Court stated that they have previously stressed that a document's status does not turn on where the document is located. Next slide, final slide. If you rule that Sergeant Brian Rodriguez email sent on the rcsl.gov are not, quote, public records, then you incentivize city employees to hide their records using other accounts. And you can read the quote here. That's exactly what the Supreme Court said you can't do. You would allow evasion of the CPRA by use of other accounts. Please do not do so. Thank you very much.
Alrighty. Thank you, Anonymous. Sergeant Andrzejczyk, when Cheryl's ready with the timer and you're ready to begin, you can begin.
Yes, thank you very
Go
much.
ahead, sir.
Okay, can you hear me? I just want to make sure you guys
Yeah.
are.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Oh, thank you. Anonymous filed his request directly with Sergeant Rodriguez. He did not file the established PRA and Sunshine protocols that other folks do when they file public records requests. And Anonymous has, in fact, used those protocols in the past to file his public records request. Sergeant Rodriguez received that request on the 2nd of December. He didn't know what to do with it. It ultimately was forwarded to me on the 4th of December, and I picked it up immediately and started to work on it the best I could. So it's our contention that Anonymous did not follow the requisite established protocols for filing this public records request. It's also our contention that it does not meet the standards of an immediate disclosure request, which states that it should be readily accessible. These types of documents require research. They have to be located. They have to be reviewed. They have to be reviewed for possible redaction in terms of open investigations or security procedures, things of that content. So therefore, it's our contention that this does not meet the standard of an immediate disclosure request. There was a request for documents from his personal email. Sergeant Rodriguez does not have any responsive documents on his personal email accounts. He does not use his personal email accounts for work business. Search of SFGov email was conducted. No records have been withheld from there to Mr. Anonymous. And we did refer him to the FBI for any possible documents on the Silicon Valley Task Force and FBI.gov email accounts because we feel we're not the custodian of records. Thank you.
Right. All right. Thank you, Sergeant. Members, what are our initial thoughts?
Okay, well, I'll go. I guess I'll go first.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused about the respondent's position that there has to be some type of protocol followed because Administrative Code 6721 states that in Section A, every person having custody of any public record or public information is defined herein, herein referred to as a custodian of a public record, shall at normal times and under normal and reasonable hours of operation without unreasonable delay and without requiring appointment, permit the public record or any segregable portion of the record to be inspected and examined, and it goes on. So I don't think that that allows some type of protocol to be developed that people are forced to be followed. There could be one that, obviously you post on the website and such, but I don't think the fact that someone emailed a person in particular in the department versus following what your protocol as a reason to not respond to the records request.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, before I let the respond to that is we have ruled, just FYI, we have ruled that when people, when members of the public request records from individual employees, we have ruled that they have to produce them. So, and we've treated that as just a normal, as we would a normal records request. Just FYI, responded. Do you have a response to that?
Yes, I do. There is an established protocol that's in place to ensure that these records requests are received, that they're received in a timely fashion, and they're acted upon in a timely fashion. We would no sooner expect an officer who's out in the performance of his duties, say, effecting an arrest or involved in an emergency response, to stop whatever they're doing and respond to a public records request. It's just not practical. That's why these other filing protocols are in place to ensure that someone is there to receive them, review them, acknowledge them in accordance with the law, and take action on them. We had a request before Sunshine several years ago where someone tried to tweet us a public records request to a Twitter account that's not monitored 24/7, and you ruled in our favor, stating that that was not an appropriate way to file a public records request, and that the established protocol, in fact, was the preferred or acceptable means for filing public records requests for those very reasons, to ensure that they are received in a timely fashion and acted upon in a timely fashion.
Police officers do have the email address, the email account they could access them, correct?
Repeat the question, please.
And police officers do have email accounts that in theory could
So you keep fading out. I understand you're saying police officers have email accounts, and then I can't hear the end of your statement.
that they could access if someone was emailing them a records request. They could access their email account, the SFP.
Yes, they could, but I don't imagine the average police officer understands what the Sunshine requests are all about. They would have to then turn around and reach out to the legal division, for example, for assistance in interpreting and responding to those requests.
Okay. I don't want to belabor that point. I suppose we can get into the merits of it at the full meeting, but I just wanted to bring that up as something you might want to come to the full task force with some type of citation on them. But the second question I had was regarding the immediacy of the response, and so I believe this was filed as an immediate disclosure request. When did you first respond back to Anonymous, not necessarily with the information, but in any capacity respond back to him?
I believe it was on the 4th.
And his request was made on which date?
The sergeant received it on the 2nd of December. He notified me on the 4th, and I'm almost positive I acknowledged it on the 4th.
Okay. Because then you do need to be notified if you're requesting an extension by the close of business on the following day, I believe. Yeah.
Correct.
So just might want to, that's probably something we'll be looking into at the task force. That's all I had.
Yeah. And at this time, we're just flagging these things for you at this point. Member Smith, you've got any questions, things you need?
Yeah, I have a couple questions for both sides. Well, one side at a time. Just following up on Member Yankee's question about the response. When you did produce the emails, did you produce everything from the sf.gov account?
I believe that's for me, and to the best of my recollection, yes, we did.
Okay. Yeah, sorry I didn't specify. Now, as to that production, and I'll switch over to the complainant. As to that production, the documents that you got in from the sf.gov, do you have any question as to whether you got all of them, and are there issues as to the, I'll call it the severity of the redactions?
I would ask that the respondent check their response. Their response says, with respect to this request, there are no responsive documents, so I don't know how they could have produced. I don't really understand what the respondent just said or how to respond to that. Their response said there was nothing responsive. What did they produce?
You never got any emails involving Officer Rodriguez at all?
I see your confusion. The thing I put on page 7 is from a different public records request where I found that this had occurred and how I made this record request. It's not what they produced in this request.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay. And back to Officer Andrzejczyk. Excuse me. Apparently there's some kind of an email account which has an FBI designation, and then there's this other email account I think I saw which is this Silicon Valley creature, whatever, you know, it's a sub entity or a subcontractor or whatever. With regard to the FBI account, did you ever talk to Officer Rodriguez to ask him to look into that FBI email account to see if there's any responsive emails in that email account?
To take that as a two-part question, the SR.
Just the FBI first, just the FBI account. Did you ever ask the officer to please look into that email account to see if there's anything responsive?
I don't recall asking him.
Okay. Now, the same question with the Silicon Valley entity. Did you ever ask Officer Rodriguez to look into an email account with that Silicon Valley designation to see if there's anything responsive in that email account?
I don't recall asking him.
Okay. And you don't have any knowledge that he ever actually looked at either of those accounts to look for responsive emails. Is that correct?
Can you repeat that again, please?
Did you have any knowledge that he ever actually did that himself to see if there were responsive emails?
I don't know. I'd have to talk to him.
Okay. Did you ever tell him not to look at those?
No.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for now.
All right.
If I have one kind of quick follow-up question on that Member Schmidt was on, can you respond and perhaps clarify what Sergeant Rodriguez's position is, why he has 3 separate email addresses? Is he a separate employee of the FBI in the Silicon Valley group, or is he just an SF employee who's doing work for them, or just maybe talk a little bit about why he has 3 separate email addresses? I think that's a little confusing for some of us.
I cannot address why he has 3 email addresses, but he is assigned to the Silicon Valley Regional Forensics Laboratory. I believe it's a computer forensics laboratory. And,
is that assignment through his employment through the police department?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
All right. And I did see Member Schmidt nodding to that question of Member Yankees. So, all right, members. What are our thoughts about how to proceed with this? Is there anything you need before moving it on? Any questions you have?
I'm all set.
I'm good.
Yep. Is there a motion on the floor? Oh, what's up? Pardon me. Sergeant Undercheck, do you have any rebuttals, any last words on this?
No, I don't. Thanks.
Okay. Anonymous, same question.
Sure, yes. I'll just ask again that you read the detailed briefing I've given that goes through why the City of San Jose apply to this case, even though it's not a personal account, and specific questions that your members just asked. I asked, the MOU is entered into the record, and I will show the paragraphs that show exactly that that Sergeant Andrzejczyk was acting as an employee of the City of San Francisco, and therefore his records are subject to the Sunshine Ordinance. That is all. Thank you very much.
All right, Anonymous, as always, we appreciate your thoroughness. Members,
Can I, may I speak real quick, please?
real quick, 30 seconds. Yeah.
Mr. Anonymous stated that I was working in a crime lab as a employee of the police department. I think he misspoke and meant Sergeant Rodriguez. That's all.
Oh, thank you. For
I apologize if I said that. I apologize. No worries.
We'll get it together.
Members, is there a motion on the floor?
I'm pretty convinced that what we have in front of us is a City of San Jose case, and I really don't see much distinction. I think these, if they exist, that they fall under that case. That's my thought. So if this involves, I guess the question is, do we advance this
Right. That
I'd move that we actually, I don't know if we have to find jurisdiction, but that we definitely advance it to the full task force.
Cheryl says that we do not need to find jurisdiction in this particular matter, as that has already been done by another subcommittee. So
I think, don't we normally say that the motion is usually that the records are public and to refer to the full task force for a hearing?
correct. Yes.
Oh.
All right.
I know you're Member Schmidt.
I will give that. I will give that to Member Yankee since he said it. Member Schmidt, would you like to? Is there a second?
I will second Member Yankee's appropriate motion.
There we go. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Is there a public comment on that motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? Cheryl?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I got it. Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Member Schmidt?
Aye.
Member Schmidt, aye. Chair Hinsey?
Aye.
Chair Hinsey, aye. The motion is sent to the full task force passes.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, please call the next item when you're ready.
Item number 6, file number 19061, complaint filed by John Hooper against the Office of Economic and Workforce Development for allegedly violating Administrative Code Sunshine Ordinance Section 6721 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and or complete manner. This matter was heard by the task force on the 21st. It was referred back to the complaint committee. I have gotten all materials from that Mr. Hooper has submitted, including his statement that he made on January 21st. That was included in the packet. So it's your call now. I did send you the minutes from that meeting for this particular matter as a staff note.
Right. And would you remind me again why specifically we wanted this to come back here?
I think what we need to do is make sure that the documents that were submitted by Mr. Hooper,
Are the parties here?
Yeah, let's ask Mr. Hooper, are you with us?
I am here. Can you hear me?
yes, you can.
Just hang on one
Okay.
second. Someone from OEWD, are you here?
Mary Ann Thompson? She's from OE. I told her how to sign in, so.
Last call for OEWD, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, perfect. Cheryl, did you manage to locate what it is that we might be trying to do today to refresh our memory?
See, what did I say? Referred back to the complaint committee and requested that new materials be provided to the SOTF, which I did, and included with the file for review to determine which documents are applicable to which respondent and provide a recommendation to the task force. So the documents that Mr. Hooper gave me on the 21st were included, and I think that it's actually pretty clear who does what in the packet.
Okay. Mr. Hooper, is there anything that you would like to tell about how we should proceed?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you for this opportunity. Just as a point of clarification, my files were sent back to your committee because at the January 21st hearing, I inadvertently sought to include some new information. That new information consisted of pertinent pages from a work contract between OEWD and Parks Alliance. and the chairman ruled, I think quite appropriately, was my fault, that the task force had not had a chance to look at that work contract. And so because I had submitted it the day of the hearing itself in January and not the appropriate interval beforehand, the chair sent it back to you. But you know, you established jurisdiction over this matter in a complaint committee hearing of August 20th, a year ago, 2019, and except for the fact that this whole matter, you know, has received a tremendous amount of additional publicity since then, the situation remains pretty much the same. So I hope that helps just clarify why we're back before your committee.
This is sort of coming back. Thank you, Mr. for your clarification. Is there anything else you'd like to add with your remaining time?
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, you were breaking up a little beyond. I don't, unless you would like to ask me any more questions or for me to elaborate on any of the merits, my statement is really the same for both 19061 and 19062. And I'm happy to rest unless there's more information you would like.
Okay, we'll get to the more information part in a second. Thank you, Mr. You can.
Tiana, we can't hear you.
I can't understand the committee member. It's breaking up on me at this end.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know. We'll get to the questions in a second. Thanks for your clarification. Tom, would you like to make a statement of introduction? Ms. Thompson? Ms. Thompson, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Would you like to make a statement with your time?
Yes. So, Ms. Kinsey and members of the task force, we are here again today because Mr. Cooper believes that he was not provided all the documents relevant to the Green Benefits District. He has indeed been provided all of the documents. And in this latest request, I am still not sure specifically what documents he is asking for, because in his lengthy response to you, he doesn't clarify specifically what he thinks he has not received. And to that end, I would like to say that Mr. Hooper has received every document that we have. He has received them multiple times because he has a propensity for losing documents in his email. We have provided to Cheryl as a CC to ensure that there is a second party on the recipient of the documents to know that he has received all the documents. And he still cannot clarify to any of us specifically what documents he is missing. What I believe Mr. Hooper is trying to look for clarity on is that there was originally a contract with Build Inc. Build Inc. no longer exists. That contract had 12 responsive items that Build Inc. was to provide back to us for the Green Benefit District. That contract was then moved over to San Francisco Parks Alliance, and the deliverables for that contract had been removed down from 13 to 8. We have provided Mr. Hooper with all 8 documents that were required by the Parks Alliance under that contract. If I am wrong, please, Mr. Hooper, tell me what documents you think you are missing and refresh all of our memories.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Questions? I know that members committee is new to this, but questions?
All right, I'll jump in real quickly. I apologize to both parties. It's been 10 months, I think, since we last heard this. So right. I appreciate for both of them kind of trying to give us a refresher here. So I guess my question would be back to Mr. Hooper, just so we're kind of focused on the pending issues here. Mr. Hooper, have you at this point, with the additional documents it sounds like you have now, been provided all the records that you were asking for, or are there still outstanding records that you're waiting to receive or think that are out there that you've not received yet from the respondent?
Thank you. The outstanding documents that I have not received are detailed in my statement before the full task force on January 21st of this year. I don't have your pagination, but in my written statement that I submitted to the full task force, at page 3, there are 5 specific items that I list that I had not received at that time and I have not received at this time. I'd also like to add that on the several occasions I have received documents from OEWD, a lot of them are absolutely not what I asked for. For example, pages copied off of Green Benefit District website and so forth that are, replicated without any useful purpose. So, no, I have specifically asked for things you have in your record. OEWD has them in its record, and there is a lot of outstanding information.
All right.
Can you point us to the packet about which items you're speaking of that you do not have yet?
Yes, again, I'm not, I apologize, I'm not sure of your pagination, but included as part of what I introduced in January, you'll find a portion of an OEWD contract titled Tasks and Deliverables for Project Area B, Forest Park Neighborhood. And if you go further into that document, you'll find a series of items that are required to be sent from Parks Alliance to OEWD. And I won't go through them in detail, but just to give you a sense, because it may be a little hard to find. Verbatim transcripts, videos, tape recordings, sign-in sheets, attendance records of public meetings that were paid for by the city. All emails, text messages, and other correspondence, including minutes of all formation committee meetings relating to the planning execution, etc., etc. All raw data collected in connection with the Mission Dolores Green Benefit District surveys. All documents, records, and/or correspondence related to the funding and initiation of a management plan or engineer's report in connection with the Mission Dolores Green Benefit District, etc., etc.
Okay, so just I think what I'm looking at here is the attachment to the agenda item, and I believe this is on our page 409, 410. It goes to 411, 412, 413. Looks like through 417, perhaps. There's a list
You can see. Just want to make sure you can see all the numbers at the bottom center of each page that were bait stamped as I was scanning everything.
So, Mr. Hooper, that's what I'm referring to. That's the packet that we're looking at. So is that what you're referring to? Those page numbers?
Yeah. So I'm not sure about the page numbers, but that would be that portion of the OEWD contract with Parks Alliance, the one entitled Project Area B. That's what I'm referring to.
Okay, we kind of need a page number here to refer to.
Mr. Hooper, do you have our packet for this meeting? Do you know if you have our packet for this meeting?
I have my packet of what I've submitted to you previously,
What?
which I believe is which I believe is the same thing.
Okay.
If you have what we're looking at, there's page numbers at the bottom center, like Cheryl was talking about. And it looks like the ones we're looking at are kind of in like the 400 series-ish.
Yeah, I think, see if this makes sense at your end. If you look at your pages 409 to 417, does that show a OEWD contract with Parks Alliance, or a portion of that contract?
I think so. It's a bunch of various tasks, like task 18, task 19, and then it says deliverables for that task, and so on and so forth.
That's right.
Okay, okay. We'll get the same thing. Good.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we're on the same page, I guess my question would be, of those, or have you received any of those, or are all those deliverables that are mentioned still outstanding, like you haven't received them?
Those deliverables are outstanding.
Okay. So then I guess my question would be to the respondent, do you have those deliverables? And if not, do you know why not? Or who may have them?
To respond to Mr. Hooper's comment, we have indeed given him all of those documents. Cheryl is CC'd on all of the responses, and I have sent them to him via email many times, and then I have provided them to Cheryl many times, and then I have provided them to Mr. Hooper on thumb drive because he often loses his emails, as was pointed out by Mr. Sullivan in 3 meetings previous to this. Mr. Hooper does indeed have all the responsive documents to everything that he has asked for, and I am simply not the keeper of his documents.
For the response that he has response to the 5 areas.
Tiana, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Are you for the respondent? Are you claiming then that he has responses to the 5 areas that he's looking for, that he still has outstanding? I should say.
Ms. Cynthia, is that directed to me from Mary Ann from OEWD, or is that directed to Mr. Hooper?
Yes.
So yes, we have indeed given him all of the information. I'd like to point out we had this conversation about 3 task force meetings ago. One of the questions Mr. Hooper asked was for the raw survey, and that was the meeting in which I had to explain that in SurveyMonkey, the raw survey lands into an Excel spreadsheet, and that's the data. We provided that to him. He is having a problem in reading the raw data in the survey and the spreadsheet. I need to emphasize, we have given Mr. Hooper all of the responsive documents to include, I'd like to refresh your memory, a while back, our accounting office was doing an audit of our contract, and in that audit, I discovered more emails and responsive documents, and then later sent them to Mr. Hooper and Mr. Sullivan post his original Sunshine request to show that indeed there were other documents and that they were responsive and that I wasn't aware that they existed. So I have gone above and beyond to give Mr. Hooper the documents, and I don't know how to make them digestible or how to make it so that he can process the documents, but he has indeed received every single document that OEWD has.
Okay. It seems that we have it. It seems that we have a dispute here amongst the 5 areas, and I don't know if we want to get into that now. Member Smith, do you have any questions?
Yes, I have a couple questions. Let's see. To the respondent, did you produce any kind of an engineering report?
There was no engineering report required of that particular contract. That
Okay.
is something that Mr. Hooper put into the request. So Mr. Hooper put a broad request forward to us, asking for raw data, engineering, and things like that. That was not part of the original contract with the Parks Alliance.
Okay, so the engineer's report that's referred to in this set of tasks, that actually never came to pass, correct?
Correct. I, again, want to refresh everyone's memory. This contract originally belonged to a nonprofit organization called Build. There were 13 deliverables with Build. Build went out of existence. The contract was redone under Parks Alliance. Those 13 deliverables were reduced to 8 deliverables. So there are 13 deliverables that were never produced because the contract wasn't fulfilled. When the contract moved over to the Parks Alliance, there were 8 deliverables, and that is the 8 deliverables that were produced to us from the Parks Alliance, and all the documents have been provided to Mr. Hooper.
Okay, so you got a set of documents from Parks Alliance because you were trying to respond to the Hooper requests. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I gave him all the documents.
Okay, and did you was that you yourself who made a request to Parks Alliance for documents for Mr. Hooper?
Yes, that was me who made that request.
Okay, so you passed along his request, and did they say to you that they've given you everything that they have?
Yes, they did.
Okay, and did you talk to anyone else outside your office to request any documents that you thought that anyone else, any other organization, any individual who you thought may have possession of anything that Mr. Hooper was looking for?
Yes. So Mr. Hooper sunshined both myself and the Department of Public Works simultaneously. And so I spoke to David from the Department of Public Works, who provided all the responsive documents that he had as well.
Okay, so that's you talked to them, but did you talk with anyone who was involved in the Dolores or the Buena Vista committees to ask them if they had any documents that would respond to Mr. Hooper's request?
Yes, we asked all the individuals involved if they had any other responsive documents over and above what OEWD would have had via email and documents.
Okay.
And everyone has provided me with their documents.
They gave you documents, and then you handed those over to Mr. Hooper?
The only people who had responsive documents over and above what OEWD had was the Parks Alliance, and that was one email different from what OEWD had for Mr. Hooper.
Okay. And so there are no other individuals who gave you anything that you couldn't give him already, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So your position is everything that would respond to his requests has already been given to him?
Yes, correct. And over and above what was originally requested, because again, to refresh everyone's memory, when our accounting department did an audit of our contract, they discovered that Bill had submitted some additional documents in their invoices, and then those documents were then forwarded to Mr. Hooper, Mr. Sullivan, and Cheryl from the task force.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions at this time.
Madam Chair, this is John Hooper. May I make a point or two of clarification?
The chair has gone off the video screen, but let's let her come back. Are you there, Ms. Hinz?
I'm trying to improve my audio. maybe. Let's let's discuss and see where the members would like to go, and then I'll let you make your clarifying points if need be. Members, do you have any thoughts? Cheryl, was the thought that we would send this back to the task force? Oh, I guess so, because it's a recommendation, huh?
Yes, we have to send this back to the task force. I think we can get through it pretty quickly once we get it there.
Okay. Members?
Sure. So I think to me it looks like we're kind of as far as we can go at this level. Obviously, the respondent claims that they have at this point now submitted everything that they can submit. I think to go any further at this point would probably be getting to the merits of the discussion, which we don't do here. So I think we have pretty much as much of a full packet as we can get at this point to send out.
I do too. The respondent, Ms. Thompson, do you have any last words on this? And then I'll go to you, Mr. Hooper.
No, I honestly don't. I understand that you guys have a very challenging task, which is to hear all of these things. But at a certain point, when the respondent has provided you, Mr. Hooper and Cheryl, with all of the documents, to include going above and beyond once the request was closed out and finding additional documents and sharing them, I get it's very challenging, but at the same time, when we continue these things on, we all end up in a situation where we can't even remember what the original request was for. And I think it's very daunting, and it can be a little distressing to people like myself who respond to these, and then they just keep going on forever, even though we've provided the person with all of the documents in several formats, gone above and beyond, and at this point, I have nothing left to give.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hooper, now is the time for you to offer your points of clarification.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Let me just take one example to give you the full picture of what I'm trying to figure out. Ms. Thompson just told you that there was no engineer's report connected to the Dolores Neighborhood Green Benefit District. There was, in fact, a full engineer's report, and it was so badly done that it was appealed to the state board that controls engineers' reports because it described the Dolores neighborhood as similar to Union Square. And it became clear to those of us who are concerned about the city wasting its money that it doesn't really seem that plausible that Dolores Park would be compared to Union Square. So, contrary to what you've just heard, part of the information that I want is that report and how it was funded and how much was paid for it and where the money came from. That has not been provided. So you've had me amply portrayed as a bumbling person who loses everything he receives. But I object to that characterization. I've tried to be careful. I've tried not to waste your time. But I would be happy if you choose to send this back to the full task force to bring with me or to bring with me electronically the actual materials I have received from OEWD. And, it's not what I've been asking for. It's things that are publicly available off website. It's just stacks of paper, but in no way meaningful. I can't understand what you're saying.
Is there a motion on the floor? I'm asking my colleagues if they have a motion on the floor.
Oh, thanks. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Just quickly, I think just for the record, I'd want to point out, because I understand respondents and probably both parties to this frustration that this has been, obviously, was continued. Now we are 10 months later, but just for the record, I wanted to, state that obviously our practice is not to wait 10 months. We had, COVID and the various shutdowns that occurred for the majority of that time, and that's why there's such a delay for us to get back to this. Ordinarily, we don't let these things sit for 10 months. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to get that out there.
Yes. And is there a motion?
I think that there's at least one document that I have a question about still. So I'm going to make a motion that we do go ahead and advance this and confirm that the records are public.
All right. Thank
And I'll
you,
second that.
Member Smith. All right. It's moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on that motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Member Schmidt?
Aye.
Member Schmidt, aye. Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Chair Hinsey?
Aye.
Chair Hinsey, aye. The motion to send it full task force back to the task force passes.
All righty.
Cheryl, may I ask that we be specific about what's going to the task force for the next review? Because again, I think it's very challenging if Mr. Hooper provides this very long document and I can't respond to all of the things in there. And since we have provided him with the documents, I would like when this goes to the full board, that we are very specific about what it is Mr. Hooper believes is missing.
All right. Cheryl, this, again, I'm having trouble remembering.
I can't hear you, Fiona. I can't hear you.
Cheryl, would this be for a complete rehearing? Is that what Chair Wolf was after, or can we cite something specific?
I think at this point we should just focus on what Mr. Hooper says is missing from the documents he's received, and focus also on the fact that the respondent has said she's provided everything.
Right.
We're kind of at an impasse, I think.
Right. Maybe we can make a suggestion to Mr. Hooper prior to this being heard by the full task force, if he can come up with just one concise list of what he believes are the documents that he thinks are still out there that he has not received. Just like one piece of paper summary version of what he thinks he has not received yet.
That's
it's very difficult to go through this 100-page thing to try to have him point out this, that, and the other thing. So I think one concise thing would help us focus.
Yes, and send it to me, and I will forward it to the task force members.
Member Smith?
Yes, and Mr. Hooper, just if you could also point out where you think a document exists, like an engineer's report or a management plan, etc. Could you just give us some sense of why you think it has to be out there somewhere? I know you've done that, and it's in your paperwork. It's not that you haven't told us before, but this is more of just let's kind of repackage it a little bit for the next hearing.
Well, members of the committee, I'd be glad to do that, and I certainly do realize that you may feel a little bit inundated about this matter of benefit districts, but let's also keep in mind that although a year ago this looked like a little tempest in a teapot, it's emerged as the major corruption issue in the city of San Francisco. It's directly tied to Mohammed Nuru's firing. It's directly tied to the corruption scandals that we're in the middle of. So let's also keep in mind that this is pretty complicated stuff.
Right. So are the parties clear on what we're sort of after for the next meeting?
I will.
Yes, we're clear. But I would advise Mr. Hooper that there is in no way, shape, or form that this green benefit district contract that went out for an RFP that was managed by OEWD is not part of a larger issue with former director Nuru. And I would really advise that he is on a very slippery slope if he continues with these statements as they are unfounded and not factual.
All right, we appreciate that statement, but we'll let Mr. Hooper proceed. All right. If there's no other discussion on this matter, Madam Clerk, would you please call the next item?
Item number 7, file number 19062, complaint filed by John Hooper against Public Works for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner. The issues in this particular case are very, very similar to the one we just heard. I believe David Steinberg can probably speak on what Public Works has done for Mr. Hooper.
All right, Mr. Steinberg, are you still with us?
I am here.
All right, hanging in there. Go ahead, Mr. Hooper. When the clerk and you are ready, you can proceed.
Is he being timed?
Mr. Hooper, yeah, he's got 5 minutes.
Okay. Mr. Hooper,
So,
go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I couldn't understand everything. Well, the only reason that I included both OEWD and Public Works in my complaints is that Public Works has, or until recently has had, I'm not quite sure of the status, a full-time employee whose title was Green Benefit District Coordinator. And yet, that person, who was I think a dedicated public servant, was not able to answer basic questions about where money was going. And so that was really why I asked a similar number of questions of OEWD. And the answer I got there was, well, we don't really have much to do with this. You should go to DPW. So, it got to the point where it wasn't really clear who really knew what was going on. So with that in mind, and I certainly appreciate David Steinberg's work on this, and I hope I haven't wasted his time. But from the point of view of a member of the public, where one agency has a full-time employee running the show, but the money seems to come predominantly from another agency, which doesn't really, want to take credit for it, so to speak. It's very confusing for a member of the public. So I don't think I have anything particularly distinct to say about this agenda item, beyond what our discussion was on the other. And it's in other words, it's a little bit hard to tell who you have to ask these questions of, because everybody's, denying full responsibility. So I figured the guy to go to was the guy who's got the title of running the program, but that didn't turn out to be very useful. Anyway, that's my opening comment on this new agenda item.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hooper. Mr. Steinberg.
Hang on a second.
Tell me when I should go, sir. Yep. Tell me when to go.
You may start, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the committee. I will refresh your memory a little bit because I was at the January hearing as well when the full task force was set to hear this complaint. And as Mr. Hooper said, he brought some new documents that day. Chair Wolf said because he missed the deadline, it wasn't appropriate for them to look at it because you guys didn't have time to read it there. So that's why it was sent back to the complaint committee. Basically, the sole purpose was to look at the new materials that Mr. Hooper tried to present at the January 21st hearing. I saw the those documents, none of them have anything to do with this case. Which the short answer is, I've given him all the documents that he requested that I have. I pointed him to other requests there's several people who he's worked with who have made multiple requests, and I've answered them all. And in fact, and then one of them, Mark Sullivan, filed a complaint with the task force, which the task force, in an order of determination, found in our favor, because the main thing that he was asking for, and that Mr. Cooper seems to be initially has been asking for, was he was making an argument that we had an obligation to obtain records from a third party, in this case the San Francisco Parks Alliance, even if we didn't have them. And the problem is that the one, we've given him all the documents we have, but second, we don't have as he pointed out, the contract that the city has with the Parks Alliance came through OEWD, and Marianne has said she has provided to him the information that she got from them, but he has been asking in the past for the task force to order Public Works to get documents from this outside agency, which we don't have the contract with. So all I can do is give him the documents that we have, which I've done. February 2019, I released about 240 pages of documents, and I pointed him to two other requests that came from some of his colleagues, which had more than 600 pages of documents. I've given him all I have. I don't have anything more. And again, the argument that we have a responsibility to go to a third party that we don't have a contract with doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, and again, that's where we are. So, thank you.
Okay, members. Comments.
I can, I'll start if you don't mind, Matthew.
No, go ahead.
To the respondent, I will ask, we talked earlier about the idea of engineering reports for Dolores, this Dolores project. Do you know anything about the existence of any such documents?
No, I don't.
Okay. Is there anyone at your agency who would have dealt with that you know of?
Well, Jonathan Goldberg, who was our Green Benefits District Manager, I worked with him, and all the documents that he had, he provided to me, and I provided to Mr. Hooper.
Okay, so he was a Green Benefits District Manager. Is that the title you said?
Green Benefits District Cmd Manager. Yeah, he worked with neighborhood organizations that were interested in creating these green benefit districts, and gave them information on how to set it up, and gave them, worked with them if they were trying to create these entities. That was part of his job. He works on our community outreach. Essentially,
he worked with Parks Alliance on things, right?
I believe he would have. I know he worked with. He worked with the formation. There were groups that were local green benefit district formation advisory board. Basically neighbors and businesses that were investigating the idea of creating these districts, and so he met with them and looking to create these things. Yeah.
Okay, so he would have been the person from your department who would have interacted with people involved in those projects, right?
Yeah, if anyone from our department, it would have been him. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry, just a second here. There's one other document. It's called a management plan, which was listed as being one of the deliverables in the Dolores project. Do you know anything about the existence of such a document, even a draft of one for that project?
I don't know offhand. Again, the contract wasn't with Public Works. The contract was with OEWD, so they supervised it. They handled it. If we had a copy of it, I've already turned it over. I couldn't tell you offhand if it's in one of the documents that I provided to him.
And you didn't reach out to Parks Alliance to ask them if they had any of these documents, right?
No, I did not. Like I said, our position has been that anything that's under our control and possession, we can provide that, and we'll point people to other places. We have to point people to other places if we know that they exist. But the contention was that because the city had a contract with Parks Alliance, we had an obligation to go to Parks Alliance. But again, the contract wasn't with Public Works; it was with a different department. So
your position is that that's if someone wants to get someone in the city to go to Parks Alliance, they've got to go to that department, OECD, to ask them to make that request, correct? That's essentially what you're saying. Okay, got it. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I have no more questions right now.
I don't really have anything further. I think Member Schmidt kind of helped sum this one up as well. So I'll leave it at that.
Let's move to rebuttals. Mr. Steinberg, any last words on this?
No, not really. As I said, the reason that it got postponed or got sent back to this committee and then subsequently got postponed was to look at the new materials that Mr. Hooper provided, and there's nothing in there that has anything to do with his complaint against our department. I've given him everything we have. I have nothing more to give him, so hopefully we'll wrap this up relatively soon. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Hooper, any last words, thoughts, comments?
Only to say thank you to Mr. Steinberg and Ms. Thompson I know they've had to do a lot of work digging through the files. I don't think we're there yet, but my beef is just that the public understand how our taxpayer dollars are being spent, and in this case, I think misspent. But I think we're going to get to the bottom of this. I must say I don't appreciate a public employee telling me that I'm on a slippery slope, quote unquote, by asking for information which I have every right to know, and I think that's reprehensible. But you've heard that yourselves, and you can take it in any way you want to absorb it. But I hope you will agree to send this forward. This is a very important item. The public has every right to know what has happened in this situation, and it is indeed part of a major corruption scandal in San Francisco.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hooper. Members, is there a motion?
I'll move that we confirm jurisdiction and that we move this forward to the full task force.
All right, is there a second?
Yep, and that the records are public.
And the records are public.
And I will second that then.
You'll get the hang of it, Member Schmidt.
It took me several meetings, don't worry.
Any public comment on that motion? Hearing no public comment, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Member Schmidt?
Aye.
Member Schmidt, aye. Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Chair Hensy?
Aye.
Chair Hensy, aye. The motion sent to the full task force has passed. And that is our last case for tonight.
Thank you to the party for sticking around with us. Madam Clerk, would you please call the next item?
Item number 8, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items by members of the Complaint Committee.
Members, anything? I know we have that item that will want us to discuss, which we'll agendize, I think, in our next meeting. So,
I can certainly do that.
if you could go ahead and do that, that'd be great. Members, anything else?
I just want to say, welcome to Member Schmidt on this committee, and his input's been, very valuable, and we're glad to have him here.
I second that.
Thank you.
Well,
You're doing very well, Dean. You're doing very well.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's enjoyable. It's been great.
Hey, we don't go to midnight on.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I blocked until like 1 a.m. just in case.
I don't mind telling you that it was difficult to function the next day. I mean, I got up an hour later than I normally do, but
Should we adjourn and stop the recording before we get into this?
Administrator, Cheryl, do you have any announcements for us? Anything we should know?
no, just to let you know that I will agendize this, the form that Chair Wolf asked everybody to review on the complaint committee, and along with whatever complaints will be scheduled for the next meeting. And that's about it.
And our next meeting is, what do we gotta do real quick?
Yeah, let me look at my calendar. I can give everybody an idea when it is. Get to my calendar.
We meet ahead of Thanksgiving, is that correct?
Yeah, the next meeting of the complaint committee will be November 17th.
Okay,
Okay?
that should work. Matt, are you able to make that meeting? I know you're just kind of filling in.
Yeah, I've actually blocked out all those meetings through the end of the year. So,
Great.
yeah, I should be able to make that.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Any public comment?
This is John Hooper again. Has the date of the full task force meeting, I believe I understand it to be in December. Has that date been established?
Yeah, I think it has. Hang on a second. I'll look at my, I mean, I did give on the,
Generally, the whole task force meets on the first Wednesday of each month. However, which items are on which agenda is up to the chair of the full task force.
Okay, I understood that the November task force meeting was already fully agendized and that you were beginning to put items on the December meeting. So that
We just don't like to talk for the full chair's decisions on what to put on an agenda.
Right.
Because if items run over from November into December, everything gets pushed. So we don't like to commit to a specific agenda at this point in time.
So
we will give you at least 2 weeks notice.
yeah, we'll contact you, Mr. Hoover, when your item is scheduled before the full task force.
That's great. I'm gonna make a ballpark assumption it might be in December and to try to get all what we've been talking about simplified for that occasion. I'll look forward to hearing about that, and I appreciate your time this evening.
No problem. I think December will be a good goal for you to have everything completed by our December meeting.
And thank you, Mr. Hooper.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you all for your time this evening.
Cheryl, did you have that December date before Mr. Hooper?
okay, the first Wednesday of the month in December is December 2nd.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I can tentatively plan for that, but I understand that things may move.
All right.
Well, it's a week after the Thanksgiving holiday.
I hope to have recovered.
We will do our best. Any other public comment on announcements? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the next item?
Item number 9, adjournment.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I will move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. So we will call this meeting adjourned.
I have 7:30 p.m.
Excellent. Good job, everyone.
Great.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Stop the
Thank you.
recording.
Good work.